Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Club Junkie podcast. Hopefully, you're having a great week. It's Thursday again, like every day. It's Thursday. It's my day. So we're here. Another week's gone by. I know another week is getting closer to people going back to school, going back to work, all that stuff. So that is a bummer. Sorry to hear that. I know it stinks that summer's coming to a close so quickly. I know that us up here in the north, it's kind of a bummer when you see summer coming to an end. It means that golf is very limited in when how much you've got, how much time you have left to play. The light at the end of the tunnel is fading, unfortunately, for us here in the north. But we still got a few good months. I mean, you can usually play through September, through most of October for the most part. November starts getting a little tricky depending on the weather. And then December is really iffy. I know I've had a few years where I've played through December, but it doesn't happen very often. So we'll see. We'll keep the fingers crossed. We have a little mild winter here, mild fall, whatever you want to call it. And I can get out there and keep playing because I just want to keep playing. I just want to keep golfing. And there's, new clubs out there, so stuff I got to hit. I need to have more time, so Mother Nature must be nice. Before we get into it, just want to let you know this episode brought to you by Titleist Tour Speed golf balls. And listen, there's a lot of buzz around the Titleist Tour Speed, and for good reason. It features a Titleist performance urethane cover, and like the name says, it's engineered for high speed and delivers very long distance and a penetrating flight on long game shots. You'll also notice a soft feel and exceptional spin and control on your shots into the green. Looking for a high level of performance? Tee through green? Titleist Tour Speed has you covered. Learn more about Tour Speed and why it may be the best fit for your game. Visit Titleist.com today. So, yeah, another big week. We got the Tour Championship coming up. I'm not there. I'm not in Atlanta. I will be still at home or still here and still in Metro Detroit trying to play golf. I'll probably watch a good amount of it if I can. However much, we'll see. I'm going to head down to the old Coldwater this weekend, so I'm going to play, I think, Saturday morning. I'm playing again, so play Saturday morning, and then, I'm going to play tonight in my league, and I'm kind of building up the bag, as you may see if you follow me on Instagram, at ClubJunkiePod. The bag I may go with may be 100% Titleist, so if you take a look at the picture there may be a reason why it goes 100% Titleist this week. We'll see, though. We'll see. So take a look there. Again, follow me at ClubJunkiePod, doing my usual Q&A on Wednesday. Take a look at the story post. The first one may interest you a little bit. So take a look there, and then we'll get more into that later on. Not right now. We'll get more into that later on in a future show. And then, so anyway, another week here. Do have a few clubs, ready to go, and it's just one of those chugging along here. I love that we're getting kind of, as we go on here, we're getting more kind of hints and whatever of what's coming down the road. Some of the OEMs reaching out about some dates and things like that of when potentially things are coming out. So it's sitting super exciting. I know I love the fall/winter for new clubs and all that, and we're seeing more of them. So, like I said, if you look on Instagram, I've got one possibly in the bag today, and then we'll see some more later on. But I've been playing a little bit. Unfortunately, didn't play much last weekend, but I did play in my league. I set up my net, and I got, like I said, I think I told you before, I got my big hitting mat back from Ryan Brath when he was in town, which was awesome. And so I've been hitting balls in the net, which is nice. And then also made it to the range, actually, to go hit a few balls, which is very rare for me. It's not something I do a lot of, but got that done. So I'm just trying to get some swings in any way I can and hit some clubs. So today I got two things that are pretty exciting. I'm going to start off with the first one, which is kind of an interesting thing. I mean, it's I know that the world of golf and golf equipment is kind of changing. It's kind of evolving over the past few years. I know, especially with last year, with how big golf was and how many clubs were sold and how difficult it was to get certain things and all that. I know a lot of the direct-to-consumer, or DTC, as you see it written online a lot, the direct-to-consumer brands that aren't typically in your Golf Galaxies, your Carl's Golflands, the place like that. You pretty much can only buy them online. Those brands are typically getting a lot stronger, a lot bigger. They're kind of widening what they offer, and it's pretty exciting to see some of the stuff that's come out from these brands. I know a lot of people are very into them because they're starting to make really. I mean, they've been making high quality stuff for a while, but they've been making really good products, and they typically are a little bit cheaper than the OEM. So if you're looking for something, an OEM, something that replaces kind of an OEM iron, very similar, you can usually find one for a few $100 less because you are buying it, directly from the consumer. Now the downside is harder to get fit. You can't go to like a Club Champion. You can't go to a lot of these places and get fit for them. I know that Club Champion I think they did have a new level for a little while. I don't know if they still do. But for the most part, getting fit is just something you kind of have to either know your specs or you have to just try them and then maybe, alter the loft lie, something like that. And also, they don't typically offer the widest range of custom options like some of the big OEMs. So for that lower price, you do get some limited stuff. But for the most part, really, if you're, if you can go in and go through with the specs they have and the items they have, you can usually get yourself a pretty darn good deal. So a lot of people have heard of a lot of the direct-to-consumer brands. There's a couple out there that are kind of new, or maybe you haven't heard of yet. And one of them that you may not have heard of at the moment yet is called Takomo. And Takomo's been they first came out with, I think, the 101 iron. Was it last year? It might have been last year. They came out with the 101. It was their first iron. It's a hollow body, multi-piece construction iron, kind of like a P790, maybe a P series from PXG, something like that, an Apex DCB, something like that is kind of what it came out as. And it did pretty well. We did some testing at in Gulf WX, the forums. We had some member testing on that iron, I think. I think it was the 101, but then they came out with the 201, which is a larger cavity back, forged iron, a little more towards the player's side. And they're actually pushing the limit a little more now, and they're coming out with some new irons as well. But they now also have a 101T, which is a player's distance irons, and there is a 301 coming out as well, which is kind of a muscle back, cavity back. I think there's going to be either a combo or a muscle back version, cavity back version, but a 301 that's going to be really player oriented. Coming out, I think, sometime soon. I didn't see on their website. They list them. I don't know if they have on their website yet when exactly they're coming out, but I don't know. I don't think the 301s are available quite yet. So the 101Ts are basically, they look a lot like the 101, which is, actually, I guess I'll pull them out here if you're watching on YouTube. The 101Ts are basically, like I said, they're players' distance irons. So they took the 101, made it a little smaller, a little more compact, thinned out the top line, and took out some of the offset. So I would put this in the category of kind of being a P770 type iron, maybe a Cobra Forge Tech. I think it's kind of in between the Forge Tech and the X. The Forge Tech's a little smaller, I think, but it's basically, like I said, a little more of a player's distance iron. And if you looked at the 101 and said, hey, I like everything about it, I just wish it was a little bit smaller, and I'm not quite in the 201 territory in terms of having the one-piece forged cavity back. I'd like a little more distance, a little forgiveness. Here is the 101T, and it's interesting because I've hit the sub 70. They have the 699 Pro. I always felt like the Pro still had a little more offset than I liked. Whereas this one here, they definitely made this into a T model. This thing here is, when you look at it there, it's got a little bit narrower sole. Definitely has less offset. The top line looks pretty thin. It's not razor thin. It's not going to be super intimidating, but it's definitely thinner. The better players are going to kind of like that, or the players who like that look. But overall, just a little bit smaller profile. The back of it's super clean. It has a little Takomo logo on it on the toe, and then it just says Iron 101T. So pretty simple. Nothing too crazy fancy. It's a pretty clean looking iron, and they do a nice job. They look pretty high quality. They look pretty nice. I will say, fit and finish wise, they're pretty solid. I do have, I think maybe just the 5-iron has a screw that's slightly crooked, but it doesn't seem to affect the performance or anything like that. It looks like maybe just when it threads in, it's a hair crooked there, but that's pretty minor, and it's the only iron with it. So the rest of them look really good. The finish on them is a nice brushed kind of finish, and the typical kind of media blasted center with the grooves on it. But yeah, overall, a good looking set of irons. Now these ones here, if you're going the steel route, I'm going to say the one nice thing in terms of when you're custom ordering, because when you're customing, it's basically you have KBS Tour Light, KBS Tour, and then I think they may have just a couple other irons in the custom section. So when you go into the iron shafts, it's not going to have every shaft that's, fully available, but yeah, pretty much a KBS. It has the Tour Light, KBS Max, the C taper, and then they have a Fujikura Atmos Red that they have for a graphite option. And then, your grips are going to be Lamkin cross lines. They've got mid-size, jumbo, standard, and that is pretty much, and then loft lie is all that you can actually, or lie is the one thing. I don't have loft on there. Lie that you can actually customize. So not a million options, but I think enough. And then also, if there's not a shaft there that you really like and you want something different, you can always jump in and buy them as head only, which is kind of cool. They have a head only option, which not many places do, but some of the direct-to-consumer guys will sell you heads only, which is kind of cool. I know there's a lot of people out there that have shafts, sets of shafts, either lots of them or a set that they like or whatever, and now you can actually go through and put your own shafts in there. They are 370 parallel tip hosels, so a little interesting for a distance iron like this. They typically, most of them that I've looked at are typically tapers, but being 370. Now the nice thing with 370 is that you can go through and kind of tip the shafts the way you want to. You can kind of modify them the way you want to. There does give a little bit of flexibility there in terms of the fitting side if you're going to kind of buy your own shafts. And either take them to your club builder or build them yourself. Does give you some options that that other iron heads don't. But overall, it's a good looking package. When you pull them out of the box, pull the plastic off. I don't think anybody's going to complain about the back. They're super simple. On the sole, you have just your iron number, and like I said, everything's just a brushed chrome with black paint fill, but real simple. And I think a lot of people with that simple design are going to like how they look sitting in the bag. They look like a player's iron. So anyway, the boys at Takomo sent me this set here, and they basically come one way, 4-through pitching wedge. They don't have, it doesn't look like, well, let me pull that up real quick. I think they do list, 4-through pitching wedge. So if you're looking for like a 5-through gap or something like that, not offered, you're going to get them kind of one way. And I think the same way if you order them heads only, 4-through pitching wedge, which isn't necessarily bad. That's what a lot of people play nowadays in terms of their set. There's not too many people out there looking for the 3-iron or anything like that. If you are looking for a 3-iron or gap wedge, whatever, you're not going to be able to find it in this set. But again, to me, that's not a big deal. For me, I'm pretty much a 4-iron down. I even play, sometimes don't even play the 4-iron in the set. So, and then on the flip side, there's certain sets I don't even play the pitching wedge. So for me, the 4-through pitching wedge covers everything I would need. And like I said, pulling them out of the box, they look good. They're a little longer heel to toe than a P790. I set them up kind of next to my P790s. They're a little longer heel to toe. And they do have, it's weird, they list the offset numbers as basically very, very similar. I mean, within within fractions of a millimeter. But when you sit down 8-iron to 8-iron, the 8-iron in the Takomo definitely looks like it has just a hair more offset. And it could maybe just be more of the shaping between the hosel and leading edge. But it does look like it has just a fraction of a bit more offset when you set it up next to it. When you set them down without setting it down next to a different club, they look really good. Like I said, the top line has just enough thickness where you're going to be able to get some forgiveness out of it, and it's not but it's thin enough where you're not going to sit there and think that you're hitting a shovel. So it's definitely got a good look to it. I think the designers there over at Takomo definitely took some time to make sure these things came out looking good. And they did a really good job. I think they're, in terms of, being that player's distance iron, it's kind of the first one that I've really had my hands on from a direct-to-consumer brand. And so far, I'm impressed with the look of them. And the finish is good. I mean, the ferrules are turned down nicely. They match the hosels. And like I said, the fit and finish is pretty solid. Like I said, other than that one screw that's just slightly crooked in the 5-iron. But the rest of the set is absolutely perfectly fine. So, like I said, good overall look. And, having a Lamkin grip on there, a name brand grip, is pretty nice. I like that better than sometimes some of the brands have like the cheap, their own brand, their own logo grip. But it's nice to have an actual cross line on there in standard. And then, so I took these out. Took them to the range, took them out and played with them. When I took them out to play with them, I was actually a little disappointed, only because St. Clair Shores was doing a bunch of construction on their cart pass, which I think I talked about last week. Or did I talk about it last week? Well, I don't know. But they're doing a bunch of construction on their cart pass, and basically, like, we played the back 9, and there was like a temporary green on 11. Hole 12 ended up being like 66 yards because you weren't crossing these creeks that went that would go through the course. So a couple holes were kind of messed up. So it was kind of a bummer because there was a couple holes there where I didn't get to use the irons, and I was really expecting to. So that was kind of a bummer there. But like I said, I did actually go to the range and hit a few balls as well, which is kind of nice because, like I said, I don't typically do that. But hitting these, took them right to the course. Had never hit them before. They were still in the still ripped all the plastic off them, tossed them in the bag. Went out to league and played them right then. And I do have to say, they play pretty much just like a P770. In terms of yardages, definitely about the same. They do seem to spin a little bit less, and they do come out just a little bit flatter in terms of launch than my P790s or P770s. And the funny thing is, my P770s have the same shaft, the KBS Tour Light. The KBS sent me those shafts to talk about. I did talk about them a few months ago. So they actually have the same shafts, which is pretty interesting. But hitting these, they definitely come out a little flatter than I thought. I thought they would kind of launch pretty high and kind of go straight in the air, and they really don't. They come out, they're pretty penetrating, and like I said, they're pretty low spin. They come out, and they've got pretty much a boring trajectory for an iron. But they're still easy to get off the ground. They're easy to elevate. The feel and sound on them is pretty good. I'll give them they're just maybe a hair firmer than the 770s, and have just maybe a touch more of click, but not much. And I think probably the big difference is that I don't believe these are filled with anything. I think these are just on the website, everything like that. They're just listed as hollow body, where the 770s are filled with speed foam. So I think that would probably be the big difference in terms of sound and feel between the two. It's not great though. It's not a huge difference. If you hit this iron and you never hit a P770, I think you're still going to like the sound and feel of these irons. When you hit it solid, it's got a good solid feel to it. And like I said, distance-wise, right about exactly the same. I mean, the yardages I was hitting with my 770s, I would hit with these, and we were pretty much identical with. And they're about half a club longer than my T100s that I go out and play. Maybe just under that. But they're definitely a little longer than T100s, same as the 770s. But like I said, come out a little bit flatter, and that's pretty much every shot. I mean, or every club, from pitching wedge to the 4-iron. They come out just a little bit flatter, so they come into the green just a little bit lower. And if you're somebody who's a really high ball hitter and you're kind of worried that players' distance irons, launch through to the moon and you can't hit them far enough and all that, these may launch a little just a little flatter, and you may find a little bit more success with these 101 tees, because I was kind of, I wouldn't say shocked, but it was interesting to see him come out. Like I said, I hit the first couple, and the first shot I hit a little thin, so it came out. It didn't come out amazing, but came out flat. And I was like, all right, I hit it thin. Next shot I actually hit it pretty solid. And again, a little more boring trajectory, just a little bit lower window than my P770s. Spin-wise, they do come out, I think, with a little less spin. The one shot that made me think that they do is I hit off the tee on, what was that, a 15 or 14, which is a par 3. It's over a pond, big bunker takes up like the 3/4 of the green, and it was downwind a little bit, and I hit like a really good, I think 8-iron or something like that, 8 or 7, because it was one club down because the wind was helping a little bit, but hit that. And I actually caught it just a little bit off the toe, and I was like, man, I'm like, just get over the bunker. It cleared the bunker, and I was like, that's awesome, because they're pretty forgiving. And then it hit, and it did roll like barely off the green on the back. So depending, where it landed on the green, I actually didn't find the ball mark. But it made it over the bunker, hit the green, and it kind of rolled like just through the fringe. I mean, I was an inch into the rough, so I just had a little chip down, made the putt, and I made par, which was nice. But, like I said, those there, they were a pretty low spin shot. And hitting it off the tee, typically, you'll see a shot that lands there and pretty much stops, at least on that hole for me. And it is kind of like a little bit of everything kind of slopes from front to back on that hole. So that makes me think they are pretty low spin. The rest of the shots going into greens, they were fine. They, irons and hit, have just a little bit release. Now the 9-iron pitching wedge, they pretty much hit and stopped. They maybe had kind of a big hop forward, and that was it. The short irons land pretty soft, and they stop pretty easily. And the longer irons, like I said, they come out a little flatter. So for me, I don't hit a 4-iron really into the green. I don't have to, but hitting a 4-iron kind of like either off the tee is like a position club or something like that. Definitely something that you can work the ball up and down. If you're a player who wants to do that, it's definitely going to be easy to do. I think a little easier than the P770 for some players. But like I said, definitely long and forgiving. They're easy to hit. Like I said, that shot on 14, I thought I was going to be in the bunker maybe, or even worse. Ended up clearing it, getting almost on the green. And then some other shots I hit kind of low toe was my miss that day. When I did miss it there, I actually got some decent carry out of it. I got balls to kind of roll up in front of the green or maybe just onto the front of the green where, I think the 770 would have done pretty well as also, but they were pretty forgiving, pretty stable, especially on those low toe hits. The ball got out. It didn't go up super high, but the ball got out, had enough ball speed to carry, for the most part, like I said, to the green. And even onto the front of the green in some situations. So, the stability of it, the forgiveness of it, pretty darn good for, a little bit more of a compact club. When you hit it flush, like I said, distance is really good. I didn't notice, I know some people with these distance irons are kind of afraid of hot spots. Between range and the course, I haven't noticed anything. Even out of the, some of the rough lies that we had over at St. Clair Shores, didn't notice anything that was a crazy flyer. Anything out of the rough can sometimes go a little farther if there's some grass behind the ball, but nothing hotspot wise that I've hit. I haven't hit a ton off the heel, to be 100% honest, so I can't, say that the heel is totally immune. But between the toe side, low toe, all that, I haven't found a hot spot on them there, or like I said, in the center. Everything's been pretty consistent. Like I said, the 4-iron, easy to get up in the air, and easy enough to get up in the air, but if you're somebody looking for a lot more height, you may have to look at maybe either bending something a touch weak or going with a little higher launching, maybe a little softer shaft for these bad boys. If you're a high ball hitter, I think you'll really enjoy kind of the flatter, more penetrating trajectory, and pair it up with a little lower launching shaft, and you could have something that hits the ball really solid and that you can kind of control the flight on real easily. Turf interaction's good. The course was, it's been a little firmer. We haven't got a ton of rain lately. It did rain earlier in the week, so we had the course was kind of playing its natural shape. It wasn't super, super soft, but turf interaction's good. The sole's a little narrower on this Takomo than my 790s, but even so, it's got a really, really rounded kind of camber from leading edge down to kind of the main heart of the sole, the main beef of the sole. It's got a good roundness to a good camber. It got through the turf really well. Even getting a little steep on it, you'd hit and the club got through the turf well. It wanted to get kind of out of its divot fairly quickly. I would say it actually had a little better feel through the turf than my 770s, which just have kind of a sharper, leading edge as it goes into the bounce. These might have actually had maybe just a slightly smaller divot and just had a little bit nicer turf interaction, even though the soles are a little bit narrower. But the narrow soles and the smaller shape, they got through the rough pretty easily. Pretty much there wasn't a lie out there that you'd have a problem with, whether it's a tight fairway, whether it's some deep rough. Nothing is crazy. It got through there pretty well. Like I said, the feel and sound was really good. I thought that Takomo's kind of dialed that in, even if these are hollow or not. Like I said, I don't know, but either way, they did a good job with these things, and they don't say that they're forged, so I think it's probably a multi-piece casting. But even so, they've done a really good job with making them sound and feel pretty good. They're definitely solid. I think players coming into the players distance category, looking to try something that isn't just a one-piece forging, which is, super solid, super soft when you strike it well. I think these will be pretty pleasing. Like I said, maybe a hair firmer, a little more click to them than something like that. But I think that's something that you typically, when you're moving up in a category, you're going to kind of expect that. Same thing, my PXGs, the Gen 5s, are probably just a hair softer than these on solid shots. And then they're definitely... The Gen 5s probably have one of the softest sounds when you miss it, or the softest feels when you miss it compared to a lot of other irons. These are definitely going to be just a little bit firmer. But overall, just a really solid package and a really good set of irons for for that player who's looking for, a good look. If they're looking for more distance, they're not looking for, things have slowed down, but they don't want to move to these really big, super forgiving irons. Here you go. You have, something in a kind of a compact shape, but you got forgiveness, you got some speed, and you can still work the ball. You can still walk up, hit draws, hit fades. I mean, there's no, hit the ball high, low. You're going to be able to hit a lot of shots with these irons. I haven't explored the whole gamut of shot shaping, but then again, I'm not really that great. Now these, with the kind of hotter faces, they do play off a little weaker lies. So when you look at this set, you're looking at basically a 46-degree pitching wedge and a 42-degree 4-iron. And then your 7-iron is 32 degrees. So if you compare them to 770s, and I'm comparing a lot to that because I think that's an iron that probably a lot of players have tried, and I think this iron kind of compares and plays in that same realm. So if you've hit that, you can kind of gauge a little bit of everybody's mileage will vary, but you can kind of gauge a little bit of how these will play compared to the 770s. So in the middle of the set, like the 6, 7, 8 iron, they're about a degree stronger. 9-iron pitching wedge and then like 5-iron, 4-iron are like the same as the 770. So they're really, they're like a half a degree different, I think, half a degree stronger. But the 6, 7, 8 are all 1 degree stronger in the Takomo compared to say the 770s. I didn't notice anything really different in terms of distance, even with that added one degree of loft. No, I didn't hit them on a launch monitor side by side trying to grind out, that little bit of difference in launch and spin or distance or whatever, but just playing them and really at St. Clair Shores, you pretty much play 6-iron down. There's very rare times when you're going to hit a 5-iron, so you're pretty much hitting 7, 8, 9 pitching wedge for the most part, maybe 4-iron off the tee. Like I said, distances, especially into greens, felt really no different. I didn't really feel like these were any longer or any shorter in that aspect. So, but overall, they're really good iron. I think the big thing is on these is basically price. 4-through pitching wedge with a set like this exact set with a set of KBS Tour lights in stiff. They're $589. Probably plus tax and shipping. But $589, and then you can go to kind of customize. There are a few upgraded shafts. I think C-tapers cost a little more. I know graphite definitely costs a little bit more. And then if you go heads only, I think they're $450 for just the heads. So a pretty darn good deal. I mean, under $600 for a player's distance iron. That is really solid. It's tough to beat that. They really are. They pack a lot of punch for that price. And then, like I said, for a lot of WRXers who have a couple set of iron shafts laying around and you can just snag heads only for $450, that's really really tough to beat. It's a really good price for a solid set of distance irons from Takomo. So if you're looking for something out there along this realm, but you want to save a little bit of money, go to TakomoGolf.com. So it's TAKOMO golf.com and check out their whole line. Like I said, they got the 101s, the 101 Ts, 201s, and then, like I said, I think 301s are coming out sometime a little later this summer or something like that, or summer's almost over, so maybe later this summer / into the fall, we'll see the 301 kind of CBMB, the full cavity back or blade. Coming out from them as well. So a lot of options. Like I said, pricing wise though, I mean, pretty inexpensive for what you get. And I think, like I said, if you're a guy like me who has a set of irons, I probably would just go head only. And I'd probably toss a set of shafts that I have laying down here in the shop into these things. Well, I never see because I don't know if I have how many sets of 370 shafts I have. So, I could always shim them. Not a big deal. But I would probably get heads only, toss a set of shafts in there, and be good to go. So for that, I mean, $450 for a solid set of distance, players' distance irons, it's kind of a no-brainer if you're looking for something in this in this area. So go to TakomoGolf.com, check out the 101 Ts, and like I said, I mean, they're pound for pound, they're pretty darn good. So I'm going to play them again some more, and I'll kind of let you know if anything changes in terms of that my review. But right now, they were overall really good. Like I said, if I could do, if I could knock anything, I would say, hey, let's press just a hair more offset out of them. But like I said, the numbers stayed there pretty close to 770s, and they're close, but I think they just have a touch offset there. But again, when I was playing them, didn't really notice. It was just go out, pull the club you need, shoot the yardage, pull the club you need, hit the shot, and they performed really well. So like I said, forgiveness on them solid. But go check them out. I think the 101 Ts are really good iron. So worth checking out there from the boys at Takomo. So I'll be interested to see what the next irons look like, and we'll see probably relatively shortly what those will look like and how those will do. But these things here are pretty darn good. So along with these, I had in the bag when I went out and played, and I had in the bag the brand new TaylorMade high toe threes. So the high toe 3 is the new high toe from TaylorMade, and if it's one of those things where the high toe is kind of taken over the name, kind of like Kleenex for tissue, the kind of shape of a high toe wedge, which has this kind of flared out toe, a little funky shape, is that name has kind of become a name that's gone on every wedge that kind of sets like this. But TaylorMade was the first one to use the high toe name, and the new high toe 3s are out. I know I did a show. If you go to Golf WRX Radio, I did a show with TaylorMade. We kind of talked about the new high toe 3s and what they're about. But basically, this is the latest high toe that was just redesigned, and really quite a great set of irons. I mean, the high toes you've seen in everybody's bag, from players on tour like Rory down to us amateurs who need help. And TaylorMade basically says this is the most versatile wedge that they make in terms of it's versatile, it's forgiving. So maybe they say more that it's their most forgiving wedge that they make. But this thing here is made to basically be forgiving for just about any shot you're going to hit. So the full grooves now have the same face technology as the MG3s. They basically went through and put on there the raised micro ribs. So in between each groove is a little raised ridge. And I got to talk to Bill Price from TaylorMade. We were talking about that, and I said, what was the ridge for? And he goes, well, everybody's doing, like, and they've even done it, kind of the laser etched little mini grooves inside grooves. And he's like, those would just, or little textures or whatever they do. And he said they would wear out too fast. So they put this micro ridge in here, which is USG legal, even though it's slightly raised. And they basically researched a lot of how high they could go and all that. But the micro ridge, I guess, it stays longer. It doesn't wear out quite as fast. And so they went with that. And then it also has, like TaylorMade has been doing for years, the raw face. Basically meaning it's raw steel, raw carbon steel. No plating. It will eventually rust as you play it. And basically the raw face helps with wet weather performance. Came out and said rust on the faces doesn't necessarily itself increase spin. Having a big gobs of rust because it's rougher, all that, it doesn't necessarily help with spin. But this raw steel does help move away moisture in a different way and gives you a little better spin when it's wet out. So they've got the raw face. The raw face starts at the heel, goes all the way to the toe. Full face grooves, so grooves that go from heel to toe the whole way out. And it's just one of those wedges where designed where you can hit it anywhere on the face, still have a good amount of spin, still have some launch coming out of that lie, get it on the green, and have some control. So they've also gone through. They've kind of changed up the camber on the sole. So the soles is now mill grind, just like the MG3. So it's all milled, and that way, if you play one of these and then you wear it out and want to get another one, they'll always be the same. So a few different options. They've gone to 3 different bounces now. Now the 3 different bounces are just in the 58 and 60. So they make a low bounce, a mid bounce, or low bounce, standard bounce, and high bounce for the 58 and the 60. The 50, 52, 54, 56 all come in standard bounce. And if you're looking at those, they're going to be 9 degrees for the 50 and 52, 10 degrees for the 54, 56, and then the standard bounce 58, 60 will all be 10 degrees of bounce. Then there's a 7 degree bounce 58, 60, and a 13 degree bounce 58 and 60. So a few more options. The high toes, I think, they used to not have that many sole grinds. I think they usually have like two, like a standard sole and an ATV sole. This one here is brand new, like like Bill Price was saying, kind of all redesigned to play, more versatile and kind of get through different lies with no problem. So totally redesigned sole on the new high toe threes. They've also been able to, looks like they've scooped out some of the metal out of the back of the wedge to kind of reposition it inside there in order to get their CG exactly where they want it. And now these things do, CG wise, the big thing is moving that CG kind of up and closer to center. And the nice thing about these wedges is, one, I guess that's really easy to do with this big high toe, but it's also nice that, with that higher CG, when you do hit it high off the toe, when you have like an open face shot or out of a bunker or something like that, the ball actually does perform better. It comes out a little bit more consistent, has a little more spin, and you get a little more control out of those shots. So they're all cast from 8620 carbon steel, and then they've got this kind of aged copper finish that will wear over time. I mean, the back of it and all that will probably be fine. You'll probably see the wearing on the sole as you use them. But overall, it's a pretty sharp-looking wedge. I think the aged copper look is pretty cool. I like the look of it personally. And then, like I said, these here came with a KBS High Rev 2.0 115 shafts. So a little lighter, but that goes with the trend of having a little lighter iron shafts for the most part. Of course, if you want something heavier or whatever, I mean, TaylorMade has a whole kind of custom program where you can order, kind of whatever you want inside these wedges, and then they came with a lambkin crossline grip, the crossline Genesis, so it does feel a little bit tackier than the standard crossline in terms of the feel of it, and then the little hash, the little houndstooth kind of hash marks are in a little different pattern as well. This thing's gray, a little bit of blue inserts on it. It's hard to tell. I mean, even if you're watching on YouTube, you're probably not going to be able to see the difference in the grip or the color. But overall, just a really solid look. And I believe even like on one of the soles, I was looking at the paint fill, and I felt like the paint fill, almost like the mill grind part, was kind of a real deep blue, where the rest is black. So a little bit of blue on here to kind of enhance the look. But these things here, interesting enough, I've only played a high toe like once or twice. I haven't played much of the high toes, to be 100% honest with you. The interesting part is the 50 and 52 will not have full face grooves. They'll still have a little bit of a high toe, but not full face grooves. They'll actually be pretty standard in terms of they have grooves in the center, and then you'll see the copper on the toe and the heel part, so looking a little more traditional when you set it up. And honestly, personally, I feel like the one thing I didn't like about full face grooves on wedges was that typically on full shots, like with a 50 or something like that, I felt like they were a little harder to align and square up. Well, when you set this down, I mean, it pretty much looks like a regular wedge. So again, love the look of them when you take them out of the bag, out of the package. Really sharp looking. Like I said, the aged copper is really solid. They basically have a good look to them. Now, when you set them down, especially like the 50-52, they do have kind of a bigger footprint. When you set them down, especially next to like an MG3, a mill grind 3, definitely a little larger, a little bigger profile, a little thicker top line when you set them down. But I think that's the point. There's supposed to be more surface area to kind of hit shots, but they definitely are a little bigger when you set them down. They're not super, super compact. On full shots, the 52, I've got a 52, a 56, and a 60. The 52 is really good. I mean, on full shots, it plays just like a regular wedge. For me, I think it's just a hair firmer than the MG3 in terms of that, and it's got just a touch, same thing, just a touch louder click to it when you hit it, even with solid shots. If you hit it a little low in the face, you'll get a little more audible sound, which is fine. I mean, it's just a wedge being responsive. But on solid, flush shots, like I said, I think it's just a hair firmer than the MG3 and has just a hair louder sound to it. The rest of it, though, it plays pretty much like an MG3. I mean, distance-wise was almost identical. This does launch a little bit lower than the MG3, especially with full shots. I noticed it, not so much with the little shots around the green, but the full shots, with the 52, I noticed it 56 and 60, I just don't hit a lot of full shots. But that higher CG, the 52, does come out just a little bit flatter than my MG3, which was interesting. But it does come out a little lower. Spin though is good. Hitting into the greens at St. Clair Shores, had no problem stopping the ball. I mean, everything that was off a fairway lie was hit, stop, and even back it up a little bit depending on where you were hitting it on the green and how well you struck it. Distance, though, I mean, exactly what you'd expect. I mean, with a 52, for me, it's like, maybe 110 at the most. It's probably more like a 108, where my 50 is kind of that 110 club. This is probably about 10, maybe a little shorter. It's like that 105 to 108 club for me. And it played exactly like that. Excuse me. But playing it out of all different kinds of, different lies and all that was I mean, it was really versatile. It was easy to hit different shots. Now the 52, I pretty much was hitting for the most part full shots or kind of like bump and run, little chip shots, little pitch shots into greens that had no, nothing in front of them, no bunkers, anything like that. And it played a lot like the MG3 MG3 52 that I have. It was very similar, except just a little bit larger. Turf interaction on this sole for full shots was really good. I mean, it's 9 degrees of bounce, which is the same. Yeah, it's a hair wider, so it does play. It actually plays pretty well. It gets through the turf fairly well, and it probably, even when I got a little steep, probably didn't dig near as much. Now again, on full shots, it's hard to really tell because like I said, I mean, between the two, there's not a huge difference around the green. It was nice that you kind of pound this thing into the fairway type lie, kind of hit it into the lie, pop the ball out, and hit a nice little pitch shot with it. So the 52 was probably just a little bit more a little bit more forgiving with the sole than the 52 MG3. The 56 was really easy. That's probably the one I used the most. Just because that 56, I don't, it's kind of my bunker club. Unless I'm really short-sighted, and then it's also the club I probably use the most around the green in terms of hitting little either chip shots or little pitch shots, anything like that. But the 56 is really versatile. Again, you can hit it, out of the rough. It's really good. I think that added wider sole, especially if you open the face just a little bit, it gets down into the turf or into that rough, but you never really felt like you were going to slide under a shot, even with the 60. I never felt, that I was going to slide under the ball like. I've got a mill grind 360 with a low bounce, which is like 9 degrees, has that kind of like a lot of heel and toe relief. That I'm always a little bit worried about getting under the ball, even with my Vokey 60T grind. I'm kind of worried about sliding under the ball and hitting it really high in the face. These here, I really didn't worry that much about getting that far under the ball. I mean, they just, like I said, with that little bit wider sole and that little bit extra bounce. My 60 is actually the high bounce, which is kind of cool. But the 60, I never had any problem. You get under the ball, you'd never have to worry about the thing sliding or hitting it too high in the face. And it was really kind of easy to hit out of some of those tougher rough lies that, for me at least, kind of hitting open face shots can be a little tougher. This thing was really easy. If you're watching on YouTube, my 60 actually has kind of a really rusted face. I kind of used a little bit of my fake rust to get that artificially rusted quickly, and it's definitely rusty already, which was kind of cool. I just kind of wanted to show off the how the raw face rusts. But the 56 was really good. Out of the trap, it's got a ton of float, and thankfully, St. Clair Shores has put sand in their bunkers, because if they were the old super rock hard bunkers, that thing it'd be tough to get the leading edge under the ball. But no, they put some sand in there, so they float really well. If you're somebody who struggles out of the bunker, these things here, like I said, with that slightly wider sole, it just kind of glides through that sand. Doesn't dig too much, offers a good amount of float. You should, get that ball out of the trap fairly easily. Now in super hard, rock hard, super tight lies, the leading edge does come up a little bit compared to, say a mill grind 3. I feel like the leading edge does come off the ground just a little bit more. It's not crazy high, but it does come up a little bit more. So if you're somebody who plays rock hard, kind of hard pan lies, the mill grind 3 may be a better option for you. If you hit a lot of kind of open face shots off that type of lie. But around here, we don't have that problem at all. The ball always is kind of sitting up just a little bit. So opening these things up, they worked really well. The spin on them is really good. The first shot I hit with it, I hit a ball. I think we were playing the back nine last week. On 10, I hit an okay drive. It wasn't great, but I hit an okay drive, and then kind of bladed I think like a 9-iron or something over the green, which was unfortunate. And the ball actually kind of ran down to kind of a in between, a little swell in between the back of 17 and the front and the back of 10. There's a kind of little valley, and it was almost a slightly downhill lie. But opened the face up, caught it just a hair off the toe. It still got up. I hit it great, and I mean it rolled 10 feet past, but that was like, I mean, everything on the green slopes back to front. So I mean, there was not a whole lot you could do with any wedge to get it to stop, but it ended up being a really good shot. I mean, exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I wasn't going to be able to stop it, like next to the hole or anything like that. But the perfect shot there, and then I had one or two other little shots where I just had to kind of get the ball up and on the green with a 60 that I did, and again, spin wise was really solid. Now, the 60, I haven't hit awful lot of like tight lies, but I got to assume, like I said, I've played that mill grind threes, same groove system there, and the spin is really solid, and the ball checks up fairly nicely when you hit it off a tight lie. So overall, these mill grind threes are really easy to hit. I mean, they really are. They're these high toe, the mill grind high toes are really easy to hit. They Man, I've got a little like tickle in the throat. This podcast that's just like lingering on. The old OG Coca-Cola is not wiping it out. But these things here really, like I said, if you're looking for a wedge that's really versatile but also really forgiving, lets you get away with some shots. I mean, they really are easy to hit. Like I said, I kind of was hitting. These are the 56 and the 60. A lot of stuff kind of a little farther out on the toe. And I was getting away with it. I was still producing, shots that were the shots I was trying to hit. I was still hitting pretty much the window I was trying to hit. I was still producing a lot of spin, still getting a lot of control. The amount of roll that I was getting was really predictable, and I wasn't striking a dead center, which was pretty cool. That you could throw these wedges in there and hit kind of a poor shot and get away with it, which was pretty nice. And I kind of did that the whole time I played with them. I just never hit anything dead solid except for the 52, maybe a shot or two with the 56. But everything that was kind of open face, delicate, trying to get it on, get it around the greens, I pretty much was hitting it off the toe, and everything out there was really controlled. I mean, it really had spin on it. It came out high. It landed kind of soft, and like I said, the amount of release was really predictable. So these mill grind or these high toe threes with the mill grind faces are really nice. And like I said, I mean, and I bet with the 60, if you got like the low bounce, if you were playing like that 7-degree bounce, if you're playing on super hard pan, I bet that when you open it up, that leading edge isn't coming off the ground. A 13-degree high bounce 60, you're going to see a little bit more, of that leading edge come up. But this thing here, it was, super easy to hit. And I can see why, guys on tour play them, amateurs play them, whatever. I mean, they do just allow you to hit some pretty good shots. And if you do miss it a little bit, it lets you get away with them. And I think, but where I hit it on the face, on this, especially with the 60 compared to that, my mill grind 360, there's no way I would have, I would have had a ball. One of them, I would have had a ball that was barely on, it would have been half on the grooves, half not. And that thing would have kind of hit, released, and ran out. So the mill grind or the high toe threes really do offer a good amount of forgiveness and versatility in a wedge that is easy to hit, and you don't have to give up. You don't have to play a big old huge cavity back wedge to reap the benefits, which is pretty nice, and they look pretty cool with the antique colors. So overall, they're really cool. The 60, I'm kind of debating. I'm going to play the 60 a little bit more. We'll see if the 60 can maybe keep it in the bag. The 52 is, the 52 is pretty interesting. I mean, all three of these, I could just play them, but the 60 really has my kind of attention there with being able to hit it out of the trap, being able to kind of hit a lot of shots. And like I said, we don't have super tight lies, so I'm not worried about having that little extra bounce, that little wider sole. If the leading edge comes off just a little bit, I'm okay with that. But overall, it's a pretty fun wedge to hit and pretty versatile. So if you go to TaylorMadeGolf.com, go over to the old wedges and the high toe threes, and they've got all the information on them, and they're really solid. So this year, I think they did a nice job. I'm impressed with them so far. I think they're super easy to hit. They're super forgiving, and yeah, like I said, check out all the specs. Like I said, make 50 through 60, 60 to 58 and 60 have three different bounce options. The other ones don't, but I don't think you necessarily need it because they're still pretty easy to hit. So anyway, I think that's all I've got. I'm going to finish up my day here, finish a few things, and then it's time for some golf. So I'm excited to go play. But anyway, hopefully you guys have a great weekend. Play some golf if you can. Summer's getting close to get done, and we'll talk to you guys next week.